On the record, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre never happened. But over the next 13 years, over and over again, bizarre, grisly chainsaw mass murders persisted across the state of Texas. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has not stopped. It haunts Texas. It seems to have no end.
All you guys have ever been in one place together, at least publicly, since 1985. Maybe 1985, 20 years. Yeah, and so I'll just introduce the panel. What's going on down there? Everyone kind of, first of all, okay, first of all, we have a rare appearance by Caroline Williams, who plays Stretch. Great tits, huh?
She said
it's great to be home.
Don't let her fool you. She's from Houston.
We have the man who created such a memorable character that he's been known for it ever since. Probably a mixed blessing, but we love him as Chop Top, Bill Moseley. We have the man who brought a new dimension to Leatherface, Bill Johnson. We have a Texas legend who is known not only for this, but for his writing, for his acting in many other films, and but especially for tonight as LG, Lou Perryman. And we have America's leading master of special effects who did amazing things on this movie, Mr. Pittsburgh's own Tom Savini. So I have to start out by saying that I also have a connection to this film. I was sent down to Austin by Rolling Stone magazine to write an article primarily on Dennis Hopper, who is also in this film but couldn't be with us tonight. What happened to Dennis? Where's Dennis?
He's playing generals.
And
Famous.
So when I got down to Austin, the screenwriter Kit Carson of Dallas and the director, Toby Hooper of Austin, said, why don't you be in the film? We'll write you a little role. And so they wrote a little role, and I did a couple of scenes. Actually, I wrote it. Kit was too lazy to write it, but I wrote it. And we did a couple of scenes, and a couple of weeks before the movie came out, they were taken out by the evil Canon Films. And Toby called me practically in tears. I'm sorry we had to lose your scenes, but I understand they're back in the DVD as an extra.
But weren't you chainsawed? I mean, weren't you?
Yeah, I was chainsawed. I was completely destroyed by.
Can we hear that line again? SAWFOO.
Safu?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was saw food. But I remember it being a very interesting set because you had Kit Carson, the screenwriter of Paris, Texas, probably the artiest Texas movie ever made, who was sort of like going around, he was on the set the whole time, and he was like espousing these theories of how he was doing a version of The Breakfast Club. And, you know, the horror version of The Breakfast Club. And no one ever understood what the hell he was talking about. It's like, I don't see any resemblances to The Breakfast Club in this script, Kit. But he kept talking about that. And then Toby was kind of in a bad mood. I'm going to say this because I'm going to say a few things that the actors probably won't want to say. But Toby was in a bad mood most of the time because he had not wanted to do a sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and had resisted it for years, but Canon Films gave him the opportunity to make two other films that he did want to make, Life Force and Invaders from Mars, if he would agree to make the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And so then when Kit Carson agreed to write it, he decided he would go ahead and do it. But he felt a little pressured to come up with a good movie that he felt like he didn't have enough time and he didn't have enough money and they weren't giving him enough of the sets that he wanted, and he was not always in a good mood. You guys may not have seen all this that I saw, but and so there were some tensions. Also, Dennis Hopper was there because he had recently, how can we say this? His body was clean for the first time in many years, and many people don't realize that he had not been able to work for quite a few years. He had a reputation for being difficult because of various, substance abuse problems, but he was like clean, and he said, and his agent was trying to get him like back into like huge movies, and he said, I want to make this movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and his agent said, that would be the death of your career. Don't go anywhere near that movie. And they said, why do you want to do that? And he says, well, because they're making it in Austin, and Willie Nelson is a friend of mine, and I like to play golf, and it's and that's basically why he went down there to make the movie. And they said, please don't make this movie. And he says, I'm going to make this movie. And so he went down, and I thought he was very creditable in his role, even though his role it seems to be like it's going to be a big part of the movie, and then it kind of disappears, and then he comes back later in the movie. But I thought Dennis Hopper was a fine version of Dennis Hopper in this movie. And so you had all these like different personalities going on. And one thing I remember, I'll start with you, Caroline, because I remember I was on the set for several days, and I remember especially your intensity. You were very much into this, and you were very, very concentrated, and you were very, I'm sure you are that way in all of your roles, but I felt like you had really invested a lot of yourself in this. Well, how did you feel about it?
Well, Bill, don't make me laugh anymore. Number one, I'd been doing like television commercials and industrials in Houston for 2 years, and it did represent a big opportunity to be in what was considered then a major studio film. They did a heavy-duty casting call in LA. And I just knew it would be a ticket to ride and progress.
Can you tell us about the audition you did, the awesome fucking audition you did?
Can everybody hear that?
You know, it was an awesome fucking audition, and I'm not kidding. We show up. I got the part. We show up at the office building where they're having the auditions. They've seen every major actress in L.A. Some big names. The scene calls for me to do the ice bucket scene, basically the ice house scene. And what I did is I walked to the end of the hallway. The audition room was at the opposite end of the hallway, and it was a long hallway. I went all the way down to the opposite end. I ran screaming down the hallway to the audition room. I pulled open the door. I pulled them out of their seats. I took their chairs, and I piled the chairs up against the door, and I played the scene. Because I'd heard all the other women going in, and they were you could hear them going, "Oh, please don't hurt me, Mr. Man. Oh, it's such a big saw." And somehow I knew that wasn't going to work in this film. I knew it was going to be physical, it was going to be a very physical role, and it was going to be a very intense role because it called for a lot of intensity and a lot of being very self-serious. And plus, I was almost in every single scene in the movie. And you got to have a lot of energy to keep that momentum, and playing with all the different players, playing with Tom's makeup, the dead bodies. He had dead bodies all over the fucking place, man. He had a laboratory going. There are body parts everywhere. He had a dictionary. It's called the Dictionary of Forensic Pathology, which shows police photos of murder victims in every permutation of homicide you can imagine. That was their guide. There was a guy who had died shoving a rocket up his ass. And this was not a small rocket. We're thinking, this is Cape Kennedy stuff. This is space shuttle shit. And he was in his 70s. It was the first thing you showed me. People with road abrasions. And
Everybody had to see that to be on the film.
it's like, to be on the film, you had to accept this whole concept. So,
It's hardening. Yeah, he flipped the pages as I was immobilized.
That was photo 511.
photo 511.
Can everyone hear? Would you guys shut that door at the back? We're getting a lot of ambient noise from out there.
So
And
anyway, it was
pass
such
the microphone if you're gonna.
It was such a crazy atmosphere. Every sensation was heightened every single day. I woke up awake. I went to bed dead. And that's the way it was every single day of production. Anyone?
Okay, what about you, Bill? Like you were also very intense. Other Bill.
Other Bill.
Yeah.
Johnson and Mosley.
Bill Mosley. You were also very intense, and you seem to carry a special quality in the way you did Chop Top. How did you get to that?
That's fear. Fear and tequila.
Then we shaved your head.
Yeah, they shaved my head. They fucked me up, and I was, as Kit Carson said, Bill, as we know him, was gone for 8 weeks. The thing I was most proud of was that I think it was because I was smoking cigarettes. I think that's what kept me not from getting the walking pneumonia like everybody else. Smoked a lot of cigarettes, drank tequila, it killed all the germs. And because everybody else was, was sick, they were having, horrible, wretched pneumonias. We were shooting at the Austin Statesman building, and everybody was getting sick from printer's ink and dust. And we were using some real skeletons from India where life is cheap. And there was like bone dust and horrible shit, and people were getting like deathly ill. And but I just sailed through because I was, smoking cigarettes and drinking tequila.
Well, let me ask you this, Bill, because I noticed, like, when you go to these conventions, like, there's Chop Top fans everywhere, and they go and they like do impressions of Chop Top, and they're like, they're so into Chop Top. And I was under the impression when the movie first came out, I would say that the critical and box office reception was lukewarm. It was not, it was not an enormous success, the movie, even though it had the title and it had everything. But as the years have gone by,
Yep.
it seems like the movie just becomes more and more and more of a cult item, and probably is known by more people today than it was even 5 years after its release. You know, when everyone had plenty of chances to see it.
Yep.
You know, and
Something about Blade Runner.
yeah, how do you ascribe
Or
that?
Abraham Lincoln.
What do you think what was going on there?
You mean like how did Chop Top grow on America? Well, I don't know.
Because he said things like lick my plate.
You know, I think lick my plate, you dog dick, and you know, there's some use a California term. I think Chop Top kind of resonated with some of the fans. You know, dog will hunt like death eating a cracker. You know, get that bitch Leatherface. I mean, you know, I think that music is my life. I think there was just something that just kind of, you know, had the ring of truth to it, I think. I don't know. It's just my speculation. I have no idea. But I thought that Chainsaw 2 was actually #1 the week it opened. It was #1 at the box office.
Yeah, well, a lot of movies are #1 the week they open.
Oh, yeah. We're #1. Sawyers are #1. Or maybe like the you know, the day it opened or something like that.
All right, let me ask
Saying quickly.
Bill Johnson. You had another kind of challenge because you have you're following an established Leatherface.
Yeah.
And there's not that much you can do with the Leatherface getup. So how did you approach your role?
Well, I took the course of love. You know, Gunnar was, you know, he was a dark poem. He was savage and scary. And now it was time to turn tables and love boat. Excellent. Right, so it's a softer side, power of love. Because I couldn't, there was no upside to trying to outdo Gunnar because Gunnar's the man when doing Gunnar stuff. So that Leatherface wasn't in this movie at all. Because Caroline would have been dog meat. Right away. But rather than, you know, a tasty treat to save for later.
Was it physically demanding?
It was very demanding. The heat was, I don't know, average of, 110 that year or something. It was just tremendously hot. And in all the underground scenes was in a huge corrugated iron building without insulation, so it was like, you know, cool hand look in the box. So we were in the box all the time. It was about 125 degrees in there. They'd crank in a rented 40-ton air conditioner, and they just, and this giant hose had come in from one of the openings and try to cool us down. And I was in a full suit and a mask and a wig and gloves. There was just no way to respire and breathe, so.
And didn't you have an extended chainsaw fight? With
Leatherface had an extended chainsaw fight.
Yes.
But as in those movies you've seen, cut! Bring in the stunt double. All right, and action! Bob Elmore, who gave many years off the back end of his life, did the majority of the stunts in that film, and they wore him to a frazzle. He was a big hulking draft horse of a guy, a wonderful person, who I was amazed that he lived through that. So he's
They were actually firing him up and letting him spark, right?
Oh, yeah.
Chainsaws? Yeah.
They tied him to the back of the truck and yanked him along, and he chased Caroline for miles and miles. So it was just astounding. I would look at him turn gray and ashen at the end of the day and just be, you know, really thankful that I wasn't doing that. Because it would have taken twice as long to shoot the film, because it would have taken recovery time to be able to, you know, then go do some close-ups.
Yeah.
So they had to work, plus they had that deadline that was part of why Toby was kind of uptight, because Cannon was breathing on his neck saying, hurry up. Get it done. Bringing in people and ripping pages out of the script. Now you're on schedule.
Okay. Let me ask you, Tom, what were you had probably as much to do with the look of the film as anybody. What were your conversations with Toby like about how did you want to make this different than the first one?
Well, Grandpa, first of all, was an elaborate, old age makeup, and but there was I don't remember having long conversations with Toby. It was like you show up, he loved it, the action, we did it, and that was it. Lou, we put his skin makeup on. He'd walk down the street skinned alive, freaking out, people driving by in their cars. Yeah, Dennis Hopper. Toby would call action, and Dennis Hopper would spin as fast as he could in the room. And then when he stopped, he would do the scene. But he had this dizzy look in his eyes from spinning so fast. If you see the movie, every time you see Toby, he's been spinning before he talks. So these are my memories of it. And Toby, Toby, I was reading in the book about Toby. He just drank Dr. Pepper and smoked cigars all day, and and that was his way of communication. Here's a box of cigars, and I gave him a Leatherface mask, and took it to Japan. What else? And Grandpa would go sit in a diner, and have in his makeup, and eat lunch, with the tin cup, standing outside. But Toby, there was. I don't remember, again, I say it again, I don't remember having long conversations with him. We would just show up, he would like it, and we would start doing it. We had to beg him to do a close-up of Grandpa's eyes, because we loved Grandpa's eyes. He was wearing these lenses, so he did that. But
Slurpy booty scene?
Huh? Yeah. But didn't he have like a week to prepare the movie? Since after Invaders, he had like a week to prepare Texas Chainsaw.
He was still post-producing Invaders, I thought, when he was starting, when he had fired up. I mean, there was actually an overlap, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between Invaders he was still at it.
Yeah, my memory of being around that set was that Toby would come out of his trailer, yell action, yell cut, and go back in his trailer.
He was editing. Because he was editing Invaders
Because,
in there, wasn't
because
he?
he was doing something in his trailer, right. I guess he was editing his other movie. Okay. Let me ask you, Lou. You've probably been around more Texas movies than anybody here, right? You've been around a lot of Texas productions in various roles. And last night at the Alamo, which I consider possibly the best Texas movie ever made, maybe one of the best. It's not even available on DVD, so not everyone has seen it. But
Well, not only that, but if you've seen Poltergeist, Lou's the guy that peeks in the window and starts eating the food out of the pots.
yeah,
She caught him eating the food out of the pots in Poltergeist. Yeah.
That is true.
yeah.
With a Teamster shirt on, right? Did you have a
Teamster shirt on?
Yeah.
Yes, I was pretending to be a Teamster and go very slow.
So tell me, Lou, how do you have a pretty good perspective on how these things go. How does this come? What was your attitude with this cast of characters around you making this movie?
Well, it was pretty much a wonderful thing. Toby and Kit called me up and said, hey, man, we're going to skin you alive. And I said, great, when are we going to do it? It's better than what I'm doing. We, the build-up to it was, of course, waiting to be skinned, but the rest of it was just, it was different than Chainsaw 1. It was a lot of ease, there was Teamsters around, there was craft services, there was places to go eat, and there was overtime if you went over, it was a union shoot, whereas the first Chainsaw had been just such a raunchy, evil, stinking son of a bitch, man. It was hard. I was the assistant cameraman on the first one, and I had to ship the film off every night. And so I had to go, and they gave me the slips to put it on the bus and everything, but they didn't give me any cardboard boxes. So there was this one particular 7-Eleven that always had really good boxes in their dumpster. So, I thought, this is a really great profession where I have to jump in a dumpster every night and wade around in the garbage and looking for the boxes to mail a film off. So that's when I decided I'd be an actor. And by the time they came around to do this, sure, why not? Actually getting paid for it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, and we should also mention, wasn't the late Jim Sedow, wasn't he the only returning
Yeah.
actor from the first movie?
The late, great, may he rest
Ed
in
Neal
peace.
came back, but he was a dummy.
Ed Neal came back.
He was a
as
puppet. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. All right.
Yeah, the cook in the first movie, or the father. He came back in Chainsaw 2, and I should say this is the wisdom of Jim Sedow. Is like he was the only person that on the first movie when they said when they told all the actors they'd be working for a percentage of the movie, he said, "No, I'll take cash." And so so he was the only guy that just took his cash and went home. And of course, all the others had 30 years of heartache trying to collect their money for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1.
Yeah.
I guess you still technically get checks.
Oh,
from
I do get a little
Chainsaw
bit of
Massacre
checks.
1.
They were kind enough to give me something like 1/4% of some little tributary company or something,
Yeah.
Previous to Enron, they had little subsidiary companies. So, but it was basically Vortex stock, so I get a little bit of money every once in a while.
Yeah. So, Caroline, are you recognized for this part?
I am now.
No, I mean
I am here.
on the street. On the street, does it happen?
You know, my look has changed so often since I moved to LA and started doing more standard stuff. Well, Leprechaun 3, where I exploded. First, I had to turn into